Hey friends, back again with a tutorial on how to create patterns in Illustrator using one of the symbols that you made in the symbol rearticulation video. So I've set up my page here in Illustrator as 1280 by 1920 pixels, and we are going to place in our symbol that we have made previously. So I have an SVG here of one of these symbols that I created. So I'm just going to place that into the file, and we are going to create a pattern out of this symbol. So if you look at the size of your document in regards to the size of your symbol, you can imagine this repeating, and it won't create much of a pattern at the moment because it's quite large. So I recommend just holding shift and scaling down your symbol to a size where when it repeats it's going to create some really interesting textures that we can see. So to make a pattern you need to select your symbol, just draw a box around it, and then we're going to go up to, if I can find it, we're going to go to Object, and we're going to look at the pattern toolbar. We're going to click Make, and this will automatically give us a repeating pattern. So you can see what I mean about scaling that down. If we had left that at its original size, we would only get maybe 2.5 repetitions down the page, whereas if we make it a little bit smaller, we can start to see these really interesting patterns appear inside our shape. So here in the pattern options we have quite a few things we can do. We can select the tile type, so I can change that from a basic grid to a brick by row, which is going to shift alternate lines across. You can see when I do that, it's made some really interesting geometry with these dots, started to have this sort of curve happening throughout. And you can also change the amount of offset, so I can say push that even further over at 3/4, or I can do 3/5, and you can start to see, you can play around and see which one formulates the best pattern. So I quite liked the half brick by row, and there's also brick by column, which is going to do the same thing but vertically. So again we can play around with that and see what sort of things occur. And there's also hex by column, which is a hexagonal tiling. And with this one we can start playing around with sizing the tile to art. So if you click this box on, you can change the horizontal spacing and the vertical spacing. So you can see at the moment we have quite a lot of overlap within our tiles. But if we add, say, 10 pixels to that, it starts to stretch it out a little. And so you can play around with these sorts of things. Maybe 40 pixels, press enter, and there you go, we've got our circles back, and that's starting to create something really interesting with the geometry. There's the vertical spacing as well. Let's put that to 40. And now we can begin to see sort of the original tiles, but it's still laid out in a pretty interesting way. So that's hex by column, and hex by row does a similar thing. So the size tile to art button is going to give you the horizontal and vertical spacing for any of these. So you can say, okay, I want a grid that's really far apart, and start to move things around like that. So there's also overlapping. So if we had, let's go back to our hex, you can see that when I change, wait, I think they're too horizontally spaced. There we go. So you can change which columns are in front of the other. That's a little harder to tell with black and white, but you really can't see much with that one. Let's see, where are we? They're not overlapping. You can also do negative, so you can do -30, and there we have some overlapping, but I think, yeah, with black and white you're not seeing so much of a change, but if your symbol is in colour, which it should be, you can use the overlap to sort of bring to the foreground tiles that you want to see. So this is the area where you'll play around, and as soon as you find a pattern that you quite enjoy, you can save a copy, and you can give it a name. So usually what I like to do is I like to note down the form that my pattern is taking. So I would say brick row, and it's offset by a half. And it's got an H spacing of -30. So we'll see if it allows us all of that. That's good. And you can see that here in the little swatches palette, we have brick row 12H30. So that has saved our pattern. So we can then go and we can change it to another one. We can investigate here. We say, I really like that. And we can save copy. And again, you can name that so you don't forget what you did to create that pattern. If I click OK on that one, you can see another little swatch has appeared. So if you click Done, we come back to our normal A4 page, and then you can actually delete your original symbol because we don't need that anymore. We're going to be filling this page with one of these swatches. So we can get our rectangle tool and make a rectangle over the entire page. And instead of filling it with black, what we're going to do is we're going to click on our swatches, and it will fill that rectangle with the patterns that you've made. And that is it, basically. You have your saved swatches here for your patterns. You draw your rectangle and you fill them with that pattern, and then you can save that back out as a PDF for your submission. So that is how you create patterns in Illustrator. So again, you bring in your original symbol, you go to Object, Pattern, and Make. Patterns can't be contained within a pattern. That's cool. And then you basically play around and save copies of any pattern that you find that's really interesting, and then you can fill any shape with it afterwards. But for your submission, you are filling an entire A4 page. So you can see I can start to draw circles and I can change the patterns in there. So that's quite a handy thing to do if you're looking at using multiple fills or hatches within any of your other projects. You can always create a pattern out of it and then start filling your shapes in Illustrator.